Hello and welcome, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Kat and I am an editor at RM, having previously been a teacher for a number of years. And today I get the absolute pleasure of introducing Andrea Zafirakou, MBE, for this keynote session. Andrea was the winner of the 2018 Global Teacher Prize, and she is an art and textiles teacher at Alperton Community School in Brent on the outskirts of London. She is passionate about education and changing the lives of young people in underserved communities through creativity. She has worked her whole entire teaching career of 14 years at Alperton Community School and was promoted to Deputy Head of Art within a year of her arrival. And she is now Associate Deputy Head Teacher, leading on staff professional development. Using the prize money awarded by the Global Teacher Prize, Andrea founded a charity called Artists in Residence, with an aim to improve arts education in schools. Andrea has also been named in the top 10 of the Evening Standard's 1000 Londoners list, a list of the most influential people in London. She is a culture leader for the World Economic Forum, as well as a member of their Global Future Leaders Council. Andrea sits on the advisory board for the Cultural Leaders Alliance and was the winner of the prestigious Greek International Women's Award for Arts and Culture in 2021. In this session, Andrea is going to be sharing with us insight into the powerful stories from her art room, which showcase the transformational superpowers that the arts can have on young people. Throughout this session, if you do have any specific questions, please do type them into the Q&A box, which should be at the bottom right of your screens, and we'll have time to answer some of your questions at the end of the session. So after that introduction, and I've been really looking forward to the session, I will pass over to Andrea.
Thanks, Catherine. Well, there's nothing else much to say now. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And what I'm going to do is just share with you what a presentation, and hopefully it's going to work, because I have had quite a lot of technical issues this morning. So fingers crossed it's there, and there it is. So once again, quick introduction. My name is Andrea Zafirakou, and I'm an arts and textiles teacher at Alperton Community School. I'm also a member of their senior leadership team there. And I'm actually here at my school at the moment, so you might hear the students in the background. So I do apologise if I have to scream at you at some point. But I'm here to talk to you about the power of the art room and how important this room is. So this is my world. This is my classroom, or what it was before we went into COVID. And I'm really excited. And just to show you a little bit about my school, I teach in Alperton Community School, and it's in the London Borough of Brent. It's a highly rich multicultural school. Lots of diverse ethnic minorities attend our community. And because it is an inner city school, obviously you can imagine there is lots of challenges that we face as teachers, language being one of them, but also the external factors that we can't control, which are normally outside the school gates. I can honestly say that teaching art at Alperton has been joyous. It's been one of the best. It is the best job in the world. I've got no hesitation in saying that. And the reason why, it's because I think there's something quite transformational that happens when our young people enter the art rooms or enter our classrooms. And this is what I felt was really challenging during lockdown, the fact that I wasn't in my natural environment, that I couldn't teach. I couldn't go and just go to the sink and wash a palette, or get the glue sticks, or get some paints, or get my resources. You know, everything transformed from I lost my wonderful art room, and it all became in this square box here. But the most important thing that I've learnt over the last few years being a teacher, it's the students, it's what I have learnt from my students. And somehow, and these stories will always remain with you wherever you go. And I want to share with you one or two stories, if I may. So I think I was a 3-year-old teacher, as it were. So it was my 3rd year of teaching. I was still very young, very naive, changing the world in my art room. It was a vibrant place, wonderfully chaotic. That's a good word, wonderfully chaotic. And it was buzzing, energetic. And it was the place to be, was the art room at that time. I was asked to take on a new student, and his name was Alvaro. And Alvaro came to me from a special educational needs school from the other side of the borough. Now, he came when he was at the beginning of year 10. So during that time, he was in the special educational needs school from year 7, 8, and 9. And his parents wanted him to transform to a mainstream school because they wanted him to experience the environment. And going from a school which had 200 students into a school which had 1,400 students was quite a huge pressure to have. But I'll never forget Alvaro. He's the one who will always stay in my mind. And when he came into my classroom, he was traumatized. His body was closed and his eyes were always looking down. He would not say a word. And I found out later that he had so many different types of special educational needs. And one of them was that he was a selective mute, so he wouldn't talk at all. So he came into my art room, escorted by his head of year, and it was midway through my year 10 GCSE class, and I welcomed him, and I said, Alvaro, please come and sit over here. I've got your some paper ready for you. I've got a pencil. We're just drawing a still life that's set around the table. Throughout the whole lesson, Alvaro did nothing. He didn't pick up a pencil. He didn't do anything. So what then happened was at the end of the lesson, I set the students a homework task, and that homework task was to draw an object which they loved. And usually when I give this task, I will get 3,000 pictures of cricket bats or PlayStations or iPhones or footballs. That's the kind of thing I usually get. So, this is what I was expecting. So I set the homework, and then the students left the room. Alvaro's paper was white. It had nothing on there, no changes. And I thought, right, this is going to be a challenge. And actually, Andrea, this is going to be a huge challenge, because how are you going to try and get this child to do a GCSE if he won't even pick up a pencil and draw? So the next lesson, the same group came into my classroom, and what I did was I always go around and say, can I have your homework? And I click the homework whilst they're doing a task. When I reached to Alvaro, there was nothing. I said, can I have your homework, please, Alvaro? And he didn't look at me. He didn't say anything. He didn't hear me. His face was again looking straight down at the piece of paper in front of him. No movement, nothing. Alvaro, can you please give me some information? Have you done your homework, please? Because I do expect you to do your homework. You're now a GCSE student. I kept on going and nothing. The feedback was nothing. So what do? I was like, okay, right, this is going to be even more challenging. And how dare he not do his homework for me? Does he not know how amazing this art room is? So anyway, I left it. I thought, this is going to be a really difficult, challenging task. I'll have a chat with him at the end of the lesson. So the end of the lesson came, and I was standing right in the corner speaking to two girls, and the other students were gently just filtering out the class, ready to go to break. And then as I was at my desk, I did a quick kind of flick, and I just saw from the corner of my eye a piece of paper landing on my table. And I did one of those kind of double take looks, and it was Alvaro's hand that left it there. And I didn't even know what it was. I just was like, stop! I screamed, and he halted, and I think I scared him to death, but he just froze. And then I went to my table, took that piece of paper, and I stared at it. And oh my God, what I saw was I would never forget in my entire life. It was a picture of a bass guitar, which was drawn with the most gentle, precise pencil technique you can ever imagine. The tone was immaculate. The detail was sharp. The shading was there, and it must have taken him absolutely ages. I saw this piece of paper, and my jaw was dropped. And I went up to him, and I stood in front of him. Remember, he was frozen by the door. I went in front of him. I was like, Alvaro, is this your piece of work? Is this your piece of work? And I was hoping he'd respond. But I wasn't, and he didn't, obviously, but I wasn't going to let go. I was like, Alvaro, is this piece your work? Just nod or do, is this your work? And then I just saw one of those. I was like, right, okay, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, it's amazing. And so at that moment, I rushed to the back of the room. I grabbed an old sketchbook, materials from the bottom of my drawer. I just piled them all and threw them into an old plastic folder, the ones that, you know, are 3,000 years old that we have in our art rooms. I just quickly threw them all in there. I ran up to him, gave him this bag. I was like, right, I want you to draw for me 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 5 things. I want you to draw me this is 5 things. Alvaro, how many things? 5 things. Do you understand me? Nod. Understand me. And he just stared at me. For the first time I saw his amazing grey eyes, and he just did this. And by that time, okay, right, you understand. Off you go. And he ran out of the lesson like speed lightning. And then I turned around and those 2 girls were still there. They were on that side of the room. They were still there, and they looked at me. They're like, "Miss, are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh my God, did you see his work?" And from that lesson, things improved. The next day, he brought me in some work, and it just kept on going. And in August that year, his GCSE results came out, and his mum was there, and on results day they came and they saw me, and I was in the hall, and the mum came and gave me the biggest hug, and she's like, "Oh, Miss Alvaro, I'm so proud. Thank you so much for giving my son, getting my son through and getting him a GCSE grade. It's the only GCSE he's got. He has a GCSE. Who would have thought my son has a GCSE grade?" And it was a grade D. And when I saw it, I was just like, oh. And the mum was like, "What's the matter?" And I was like, "Well, if he was here in year 7, we could have got him a grade A because he's so talented." And the parents, the mum was like, "Oh, really?" And then Alvaro's face just lit up. And I was like, "Yeah, because he's got so much talent and he can do this." To cut a very long story short, with the huge persuasive powers of the head of department and the leadership team just being amazing, they agreed for Alvaro to do an A-level art. Now remember, this is a student with a statement at that time, and you know his only GCSE was art. Impossible. The challenge was put upon us. Will you try? Do you promise you're going to get him a grade? And the answer is yes, we're going to get the student a grade. Not only did he get an A-level A grade, which this is the piece he has in front of you, you can see. But he also got an A for photography as well. So after 2 years of staying in the art room, Alvaro, the student who nobody had any expectations, nobody thought could, did. But the thing that I love about this young person's journey is that he used to come and sit at the back of the art class when he had his spare lessons during A-level. Regardless of whatever class it was, he used to come, sit right at the back. His place was always there. He used to get his work out, and then students used to come and sit with him and watch him draw. He used to go up and help other students draw. And from that, he learned how to feel comfortable and confident and communicate in the art room. And that for me was the power of change. That was a transformational thing I've been waiting for. Alvaro, the boy who could not speak, found his voice, found his confidence, found his identity in the art room. But there are many students who don't have those incredible happy journeys and those wonderful moments. I want to share with you the story of Reyna. So Reyna was a student, I think she's left, it must be about 10 years ago now. But this is her GCSE piece. And the problem with this wonderful piece, and it is an incredible piece, was that when Reyna did this GCSE piece, it was nothing like what her coursework or her portfolio was developing prior to this piece. So when you're doing GCSE art, normally you have a sketchbook or you have work which you develop to come to this final piece. All her work that she was developing, there was no resemblance to this. Now, the biggest challenge when I saw this as her final piece, I was like, well, okay, this can't be Reyna's work. And when I showed it to the head of department, he's like, and I said to him, you know, guess whose work this is? He was like, no, how could it? This is so different. And the question that I had, the struggle I had was, how can I try and persuade and advise the examiner that this piece of work relates to the coursework which the student done? And that was a massive problem. So what was I going to do? I just thought, well, you know what? Something's wrong here. Something is very wrong. Let's go and speak to the student. So the next day, we called Reyna and we invited her to come in. Now, Reyna was the most shyest, quiet, girl you've ever met. She's like the ghosts that we have in many of our classrooms, the one who just do everything right, who are always on time, never put their hands up, and are just the perfect student. When she came in to see us, and she saw the work in front of her, she was really upset. She's like, Miss, what's wrong? You know, is this not good enough? Miss, what's wrong? And there's so much I wanted to tell her and ask her, because I was really stressed. I was very confused, because I just thought, you know, why would she throw it all away? Why would she change everything at the last minute? And then I just simply asked her, Reyna, what's going on? That very simple sentence, Reyna, what's going on? And then that's when the telltale signs come out. So this is when, you know, you see them pulling down their sleeves and close up, and we discovered that there was evidence of self-harming, that we discovered that there was lots of complex issues, and that she was very, very depressed with high mental health levels, because in a few weeks' time after she finished studying and completing her GCSE exams, she was going to get married and be sent to another country to marry. Reyna didn't want to get married. She wanted to stay in the UK. She wanted to graduate and become a nurse. So thankfully, we put systems in place. The external services were called to support the family, and I'm delighted to say that Reyna did stay on. She did complete her A-levels and did get into one of the best universities in the country, and is now a dentist, which is amazing, a practicing dentist. But the thing which was really powerful to me was that this piece of work saved her life. This piece of work was how we got to understand and listen to her call for help. So sometimes with our students, we can pick up in the art room, we can pick up so much. We can pick up exactly what they're trying to tell us if we are listening and we are watching well. And then you have those students, you know, those students who, when you look at your register every year at the beginning of the term, you almost have a heart attack because you see the student's name on there. You're like, oh my God, I've got him. So this is Alex's work. And Alex was in my year 8 class. Oh my gosh. Just thinking about Alex gives me, you know, it makes me tingle. So Alex was one of those boys that you just never knew what's going to happen when he came into the room. He was very aggressive, very volatile, very angry, again, had a multitude of different types of special educational need labels, dyslexia, dyspraxia being one of them. And I know that he would never write, because when I asked him to write in year 7, I think we got to 3 words and that was it. There was a tantrum and there was catastrophe after that. So this was my year 8 class, and we did a project based on Cubism. And we were looking at Picasso to do a self-portrait, and I will never forget this lesson. And I think it's that lesson that just gives you that warmest glow that you've ever experienced in your entire life. At the beginning of every lesson, I lift up a piece of work. I go, right, okay, so this student, can we please tell them what they need to do to improve, what is working well, and what else they could be doing, what can they be focusing on now on this lesson. And so normally you have lots of questions and comments like, oh, Miss, I really like the way he painted that, or I really like the way she did her outline, or Miss, they really blended that color really well. It's not see-through, it's really strong and vibrant. And so when I lifted up this piece of work, and there was no name on the back of that, so I was like, oh, another no-namer. Come on, guys, come on, names. Right. Okay, let's have a look at this work. Ooh. And at that moment, you hear all the comments. Miss, I really like the cut. Miss, look at the way he paint. Look at the control. He really tried to do the outline really well there. Oh, I love the way he used black. They use the black biro, and they use the black felt tip and the black paint. And then I said, well, whose work is this? And then right at the back of the class, you see Alex, who was looking completely away from the group. He put his tiny hand up. It went like this. Now, what happened then blew me away. My mouth dropped and I stared at the back of the room. And then the students who were near me, they saw my reaction. They turned to the back of the room and they saw Alex. And at that moment, they celebrated, they clapped, they jeered, it was almost like England winning the World Cup final. It was that kind of environment. And it was real, it was pure, it was one of those glorious moments. And I was almost crying. I was like, oh, no, I can't believe that this is his work. You know, it was just so beautiful. But from that moment, this child changed. He became so much confident, because what happened then, he has many, many labels, but for this one piece of work, they didn't matter. His work was just as good as everyone else's. And I think, and okay, I can't tell you that he wasn't cured. He was sometimes still an absolute pain, but things improved for him. His behavior, he found something, he found a way to connect. And I remember speaking to his maths teacher, and she goes to me, oh, he's so much more calmer now, isn't he? And I was like, oh yes. So again, it shows you that within the arts and within the arts rooms, every child can, it doesn't matter who they are, they can find that piece of work which will make them feel just as good as everyone else. So I think this is a really important statement, and sometimes the thing which which I'm blown away about is, since winning the Global Teacher Prize, how many of my students came up to me and said, Miss, we're so proud of you, Miss, you know, because of you, and this has not stopped. This continues and continues and continues. And sometimes I just wonder, do many teachers in the UK experience the same level of gratitude as I do? And the answer is no. But yet, everyone remembers their teacher. Everyone appreciates their teacher. Everyone says that their life has been changed, or the person who had the most influence on them was a teacher. So one of the things which we need to remember, teachers out there, is that how important we are, because it's not just about, and this statement here, this piece here really brings it to light. You know, we make everything. We make all the professions. We plant that seed that grows, that helps our young people develop and become whatever they want to be. And it's our job to give them that confidence, to give them that resilience, to make sure that they are in that learning space that nourishes that. And we have had an absolute minefield of a couple of years, I'd say. And I saw this on social media and I thought, yeah, this is what we do. But actually, this is what we've been doing for years and years and years. And the thing which I'm really mindful of, and I'm I have traveled many countries, I've spoken to many teachers, but the UK teacher, oh my God, their level of commitment, their level of their generosity for their time, they go way above and beyond anything. Because in our day, we don't just do the teaching, that's 50%. It's all the other stuff that we do as well. And this is the other stuff. It's making sure that we are looking after their pastoral well-being, supporting the parents, making sure that child has got absolutely everything. And some of this never gets celebrated. So that's why I wanted to make sure that everyone who is watching, who's a teacher, acknowledges that you are special, you are valuable, and thank you for doing what you are doing. And I often get asked this, so what makes a great teacher? Well, I don't think there's a magic recipe, but there are some points which I think have always guided me and have helped me to really appreciate the value of a educational practitioner. And the first thing is relationships. And it's not just about building relationships with your young people, because that is really valuable. It's also building relationship with the staff and the parents and the local community in your school and around in your school. And when it comes to building relationships, you know, sometimes I get questioned quite a lot. Does that mean I have to be their best friend? No, you don't have to be their best friend, but you need to be somebody who is there, who they know they can come to, who they can speak to, who is always a professional, always the adult, but they know they can come. And I think that's something that I think is really powerful, the importance of building a relationship. Once you have that, everything else just flies. Everything else will happen. And the joy of learning now, you know, This is a really exciting time now that our students are back in the classrooms. We now can afford to celebrate learning, to show them how good, how fun it can be. And what I always try and do is just to make sure that there is some type of fun in my lesson, or an activity that they will remember, that they will be left with. And if we think about the days which were the best days of our school year, sometimes they may have been going on a trip, or maybe teaching, or an activity we did outside the classroom, or it could be anything. So it's just making sure that we remember what was it that we enjoyed doing, and trying to see if we can accommodate that in our learning environments in our schools. Kindness, yes. Now, a very powerful one, and I think very underestimated. And it's the kindness that young people deserve. It's the kindness that adults deserve, the kindness that exists across the school. If we are making sure that we are kind to each other, we are listening, and that we also know what our young people have experienced before coming into the school, then we can really make sure that we are being effective practitioners. So for an example, we had when I was the head of year centuries ago, we had a student who, just getting him into school, just him coming into school was a miracle. His home life was tragic. It was really appalling. And so for this young person to wake up by himself, to get onto the bus, to wear his uniform, to come in, that was amazing. And I remember him walking into a classroom once, and when he walked in, I just saw his face. He took a deep breath. He's like, and I knew that member of staff didn't understand him, and was going to already start screaming at him that he was late to lesson. But those kind of things, so obviously that in terms of that situation, that member of staff had a word to. We explained to him, this is this student, and this is, we are so proud of him for coming in here, and just back off a little bit. But I think that's about being kind, making sure that our young people know that we are there to support them and to hold them to account, but to support them too. And the last one is that having those high expectations. And this always brings me back to my story of Alvaro, and remembering when I was a teacher, the younger teacher, those many years ago. And if I was to be honest with myself, reflecting back, did I have high expectations for him? No, I didn't. When he first came in, his parents, his mum, said quite openly, "Oh, I don't think my child will achieve a GCSE grade." And because of that, that could have had an effect on us. That could have planted that seed to say, well, I'm not going to bother then. So it's always about having those high expectations, making sure that we are the positive role models, that we are pushing these young people to succeed and to reach and achieve whatever they come. And this is the hardest thing, especially now when young people are too frightened to make mistakes. That doesn't matter. We need to make sure that our learning environments are places for them to make mistakes. Now, I just wanted to show you this piece of work that I've got here for you. Now, you might actually see it on the wall in my office, but this is a piece of work from a student of mine called Parda, and I had the pleasure of teaching her many, many years ago. Now, she came from Nepal, and her work was phenomenal. It was tiny, 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 tiny. And my biggest challenge was for her to draw at least bigger than a 50-pence piece. Everything she would do was just so tiny. And I always used to tease her, come on, Senpai, fill up the page, use the whole page, go for it. She'd smile and giggle, go, miss, maybe next time. Anyway, so for her GCSE exam, I will never forget this. She came into the classroom, and my jaw dropped at that point, because she came in with this piece of wood. And I was like, Parda, what's that? She goes, Miss, I'm going to draw on this for my exam. And I was like, what about the other idea, Miss? I had a new idea. I was like, okay, your work, go for it. And she put this piece of this MDF board up. And again, this is like 1.5 by 1.5, this shape of this. And she just started painting. And throughout that journey, my mouth was just, I was gobsmacked. And this tiny, quiet human being created something, and for her final exam decided just to do something completely revolutionary, break that comfort zone, break those limits, and create something, and took a risk and create something huge, successful, not even on paper, on wood, and for it to look this powerful. And a couple of years actually more than a couple of years, I'd say about 5 years later, she got in touch with us. She got in touch with myself and the head of department, and she said, Miss, because as you all know, you will never not be a miss, even if your students X are 30 years old, you'll always be a miss. Miss, just to let you know that I'm going to be on the Great Pottery Throwdown. And she was, and there she was. So some Parda from I would like to think from the confidence she got into from the art room, she's now become a ceramicist in her own right. And she was on one of the shows that she was on was a Great Pottery Throwdown a couple of years ago. And I know from that she is also now doing other works and other other types of artistical work in the industry. And I'm just so proud of where she has gone and who she is. The child who always drew the most tiniest work is now publicly showcasing her brilliance. So you may think, well, okay, Andrea, it all sounds all good, but really, come on. What you're asking is the impossible, and yeah, I am asking the impossible. And I love this beautiful quote taken from Alice in Wonderland and Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass. And this is when Alice was trying to figure out what impossible was. And she said, so there's no use trying, said Alice. One can't believe impossible things. And then the Queen said, well, I dare say you haven't had much practice, because when I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. And I think this is what we are, teachers. We do the impossible. We make the impossible happen. You only just need to reflect on what happened over the last 2 years from COVID and lockdown, and how we've adjusted, how we've transformed our teaching, our pedagogy. We have created the impossible. So I'm really proud to share that with you and say thank you very much for doing what you're doing. And thank you very much for being the right people in front of our young people. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Andrea. Your stories from your art room are just inspirational. I definitely had goosebumps listening to you and close to tears. I think it brings back those sort of memories of, I think everybody listening would have children that they could relate similar experiences, and it reminds you of that huge impact that you can have. So I think it was definitely, it was that moment of, if you'd have been in the room with us, I think there would have been complete silence listening to that. And it reminded the powerful impact of art and creativity, and giving people that, giving young people a different forum to express their views, to share how they're feeling, and sometimes that's the way that they'll choose to do it. So thank you very much. So we will now try to answer some of your questions that have been coming in, and if you do have any questions for Andrea, please do put them in the Q&A box, and we'll cover them in the next bit of time we've got. So I think if we start off with then, Andrea, in terms of, you mentioned one of your pupils who had sort of additional needs and it transitioned. How do you see that, art can be a forum for young people with additional needs?
Well, this is where it just makes sense for me. I mean, the arts are so inclusive. Through the arts, everyone can try, they can create. And this is why many people now are using it as the language of therapy, or the language of helping to understand the young person. The communication and the information that you can get just from one piece of artwork is phenomenal. And there's so much, and it's enriching there. And that's why I'm such an advocate for the arts, because for many of our students who struggle and who can't, and maybe don't want to, the art rooms, and not just fine arts, but all the art spaces, so drama, music included, these are the subjects which are their natural go-to. And I've met so many famous, I know it sounds really kind of, sorry, it sounds really, famous, but I met many kind of celebrities out there who've said, oh, my drama teacher, my music teacher, if it wasn't for them, because I hated school, but they were the ones. And I think this is what we have. We've got this magical, we're different, aren't we? The teachers are slightly different than anyone else. I think maybe it's the hair, it's the paint on the clothes or whatever it is. But I think we can relate to all types of students. And I think that's why they connect with us in a powerful way.
Yeah, brilliant. It's that safe space as well, isn't it? Like you say, it's a safe space for learning to express. And then I think linking, a big theme that we're seeing at the moment is around anxiety, well-being, the return to school. It's quite a challenging time for all pupils.
Mm-hmm.
See that the arts could play a role. How could teachers be using the arts as a supportive element?
So yeah, well, I mean, so imagine, they've not been able to touch, they've not been able to feel, and some of our young people have not had any, apart from their mobile phones, maybe they've not had any experience to use a different tool. So I think this is the beauty about the arts, the fact that we've got so many different types of media, clay, sand, wire, all of these different types of media will really help get our young people connected to what is right, what is pure, and also to themselves. And it will just help them get back to that nice recovery mode. And I think how I've noticed over being from lockdown is that actually creativity has been the natural go-to for our young people. So, for example, way back when we had the Black Lives Matter movement, some of the the biggest moment I had, and really emotional moment I had, was out of the blue. Some students would just sent me posters and pictures of artwork. Miss, this is what I've done. What do you think? And now pictures of their feelings on what's been happening with Black Lives Matter. And I felt honoured, the fact that, wow, they're communicating to me through art, and that's number one. And B, they're communicating to me. This is beautiful. This is their outlet, So I think it's such a powerful tool. It's such a powerful communication tool, and we need to make sure that we keep them protected in our classrooms, in all stages, in all phases, because our young people need them, and our young people need these types of outlets to go to.
Lovely. Yeah, we've had one comment come in saying that you're just a complete inspiration, and thanking you for sharing everything. Your experience. I suppose, teachers are listening, or practitioners are here listening. What would you say where should they go for advice for their next steps? They're thinking, right, we really want to make art a priority. What would you say is the kind of next step? Is there somewhere you'd recommend them looking for additional information?
There's so much. So, from the top of my mind, I'd say, if you've not had a look at the Arts Mark framework, just to see where you're at, so have a look and analyze that. There's lots of them. Again, the bridge organizations, their job is to make sure that they connect schools with arts opportunities. But link up with your local school. See, make the art lead there, meet with the art lead here, and see how we can collaborate. Make sure you're entering competitions. There's so many competitions, and there's so many fantastic freebies which all the big organizations are wanting schools to enter. Get your kids to enter them. Get your kids to enter everything. They want them. They want to do that. They want to showcase their work. And I think that's a really, really good stage. And then I would say, bring the parents on board. Whatever you're doing, get the parents on board, showcase their work. Make sure you've got a website that's got a gallery space. You've got your own art room, Twitter account where their child's work is being celebrated. I mean, that's really powerful, absolutely powerful.
Brilliant. And of course, I think you've got a new book coming out. Is that correct?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm going to do a really cheeky plug here, guys. I'm really sorry.
No, that's fine. I was going to say I've seen it.
I'm so proud of this. It's called Those Who Can Teach, and it's really the stories of what it's like being a UK teacher. And I speak about the students who have really made that impact on me. Many of the students I spoke about today, but there are more as well. And what I'm really proud about is how many teachers who I've never met before have got back to me and say, I recognise those students are the same students that I teach. Thank you. And I think that's what it's all about, is raising the profile of what the UK teachers do and celebrating their work. As well as, of course, a massive plug for the arts and education, which I will never let. I think it's just so important. It's so vital now more than ever. And if there's teachers on this call who are umming and ahhing and thinking, well, I need to speak, my leadership team, I'm not interested, get in touch, because there's always ways in which we can promote this. We need to make sure that we are delivering a really great broad curriculum for young people. So keep going, you'll get there.
Brilliant, lovely. Yeah, no, and I think it's that element, isn't it, of that we, every teacher has an experience, but there's always a relatable situation to somebody else's teaching experience. So we're not in it alone, even if sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah, maybe our students look different. Maybe they are different coloured. Maybe they talk in a different accent. Maybe they come from another country. But the stories are really familiar, and it's been wonderful just celebrating that. But also the challenges that we have as teachers, and some of the great difficulties that we have got to manage every single day. It's an absolute celebration of what we do in the UK, for sure.
Brilliant. Yeah. And it can be really therapeutic to have that time with, I know from being a primary school teacher, having that time in the classroom where you were sort of, creating and making alongside the children. That's a real, for staff well-being as well.
Well, actually, that's a really good point which you've raised there, Catherine, because I think something which we need to probably do more as practitioners is and I love this, and I think I need to do this more, is showing the students or my students my work, or showing them my journey doing that particular work which they're doing. They love that. They get so inspired by seeing Miss or Sir paint, draw, make. And I think you automatically get this kind of this respect as well. So if you're worried about showcasing or trying things out with your students, don't, just go for it. Absolutely, just go for it. That they'll all appreciate the fact that you're on this journey with them.
Yeah, definitely. Brilliant. We've had one quite specific question come in. So around the price and license costs of image and photo editing software for schools. And do you think that causes a block for some students? It puts, exploring photo editing out of reach. So income, like home learning and access to home.
So I know that Adobe have got Spark now, which everyone can access, all students can access, but I also know that Procreate, they can download their own tablets, their own packages which they have, and download them onto their own tablets. I use the most basic paint package sometimes to do some photographic work, but don't. Make sure that you're still including this as an art form, because it really is. And some of our students who are designing Minecraft and incredible graphics already, we need to make sure that they can connect that to the art room and as being an art form, because it really, really is. It absolutely is. And there's an interesting almost separation between the fine arts world, where no technology exists, to the graphics world and DT, where it lives quite happily there. I think we need to bring them both together, because when they go to university and they do a foundation course or whatever type of course they do, they will need to know the basics of the arts to help them become even better in what they're doing. So yeah, and now it's been a great time with technology being such a high factor in every school, that we should try and see what we can do. I'm not sure if there's any local industries or local organizations that can possibly sponsor you to get more licenses into your school. It might just be worth exploring this. It might be worth maybe speaking to the Arts Council and see if they've got any suggestions, or applying for a grant, because I think there is a way forward. And come on, let's face it, I think technology is now their language. You know, this is it's so natural to them, more than for us. So we need to start making sure that their language is appreciated and acknowledged in our schools.
Yeah, brilliant. Lovely. And then sort of one of the things I was sort of thinking about when you were talking about, you know, working alongside and staff showing that journey. I know I was guilty of this as a primary school teacher, and you'd say, here's a piece of work from an artist, right? We're all going to have a go at creating something similar. And you know, having done more research and sort of hearing you speak makes me think, oh, you know, is that stifling their sort of creativity? Is there sort of a different approach? So how would you kind of encourage, or how would you suggest we approach that in terms of exploring artists and different artists, but then allowing children to develop their own creative style?
Yeah, I think that we should bring art. We absolutely need to be bringing artists' work into our lessons, because it shows them all the possibilities, and also the critical context and the historical context that they can bring. It helps to improve the literacy skills of our young people talking about artwork. But then I think the starting point could be the basis for that piece of artwork to be introduced from the artist. But then where it goes, that's another thing, you know, that where it goes, it could be endless. You can take a cubist piece and then move it into ceramics, or photography. There, you know, it's endless. And that's why I think we have the best subject, because there's no right and there's no wrong. It's all about experimenting and making mistakes and exploring and collaborating. That's the journey. That's what you want their outcome to be.
Yeah, so that real individualized piece at the end. I think there is that thing, isn't there? You know, I encountered lots of children who go, oh, I'm rubbish at art because mine never looks like so-and-so's, but it was actually, it didn't matter what, you know, it was the process and the journey. And yeah. And then in terms of how, you know, that interlinking of the subject, so art linking into other subjects, and sort of opportunities to be able to link skills, link knowledge, you know, what would be your advice if people were looking at that area?
Well, I think it's mind-boggling because I could be because I teach art. It could be because but everything is art. Everything is design. You know, so Islamic art leads beautifully onto maths. If you're looking at Da Vinci, was he an artist? Was he a scientist? So we shouldn't separate. You know, architects, art, maths. So where is it? Why are we dividing these subjects? We should be teaching them together as one thing. And this is, I think, why I think the arts is so fundamental, because they more or less can help to accommodate, help to raise the profile of every subject, because visually it's a fantastic way of communication. So I get quite kind of annoyed when they say art or maths, art or RS. No. And if you want to teach some of these subjects, go into gallery, and whatever subject it is, you'll be able to teach any subject just by visiting a gallery. You know, all the information's there. So sorry, I got a bit flustered there. Sorry.
No, I think because of the curriculum, it does encourage you to see subjects in boxes, and then whenever it is a sort of topic or a linked approach, you still seem to, art still seems to be right. We're all going to create a drawing of this, or we're all going to sketch, or
we're going to colour in this worksheet, yeah. And I think a lot of that is because of teachers feeling comfortable in their artistic skills, and just trying to get them out of their comfort zone. But a lot of that is hopefully, well, ideally from teacher training. We need to find ways of making sure that when our teachers are being trained, that more arts opportunities, more creative opportunities are utilized in the institutions, that they feel more comfortable, that there isn't any, I suppose, any kind of, oh, I'm not good at that, you know. So so we need to help our teachers become a little bit more creative, I'd say.
Yeah. Are there any sort of tips in that? You know, that just resonated with me, that, you know, when I was drawing in front of 5-year-olds, they'd of course go, oh, you're amazing, you should have been an artist or something. But I think a lot of the barriers do come down to confidence and thinking, actually, if you are a really talented young person in your class, how do you, I suppose I'm thinking from a primary sort of perspective, because you're not necessarily a subject expert in art, but how do you nurture, support and encourage children to thrive when you yourself don't necessarily feel confident?
Oh, Catherine, there were so many students who I would easily have said to you, and I have said to them, you draw better than what I draw. And giving that young person that confidence at whatever age, it just, you know, the sense of pride, the sense of achievement, because we do have now and again in our classrooms those talented individuals where you're like, whoa, oh my, I can't wait to see what they're going to be doing. So I think it's about maybe teachers saying, being honest and saying, like, I'm not really good at this, but you're much better than me, and wow, you know, you should maybe think about, you know, having a look at this and having a look at that, or, you know, have you looked at this artist here, or have you seen how this designer does their work, because it reminds me of you. That's the seed, that's the conversation, that's the spark of wow, which, you know, will then take that young person into any direction. Yeah. Can you imagine them going home and say, my mum, my teacher says I'm better at drawing than her. I mean, that's like, what? You know, and I think that's such a brave thing to do as a teacher. But can you imagine that child's face? It's like, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. Because I think it's a real area of, you know, you can't necessarily, you know, do your lesson plan the night before with art, because you almost don't know where the lesson might take you. And if a child, it's having that confidence, as you say, to be able to say, actually, you're incredible, and let's work on this together. Yeah. With a question that kind of links back to what we were talking about with the other subjects around STEAM, the sort of the STEM, STEAM, and bringing the arts into that. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think it's becoming more important in schools, sort of looking at STEAM as an approach?
Yeah, I mean, let's keep going. STEAM, and then let's add some more acronyms. You know, we can have coding on the end of that. We can have geography on the end of that. So I think it's about, the thing that I love about the words STEM and then STEAM is the fact that we're now starting to think that every subject is valuable, and that we shouldn't stop there. We need to keep going. We need to keep this going and adding in all the other subjects. As you know, I teach secondary, so I am. I have the subject like many other subjects. So RS, sociology, PE, computing. We are the ones which are seen as not as important. So we are in the, you know, we're in the lowest buckets, as they were. So anything that helps to raise the profile of our subjects, to make them seem just as good as English, maths and science, that is the right type of language we should be using in our schools. That's the right type of attitude we should be having, because at the end of the day, no one child will ever be the same, and every child is trying to fit in and look for their identity, and we're doing them an injustice if we're not making sure that we're giving them a taster or an experience of everything that's out there, for them to feel, actually, I like this, I'm good at this, I want to pursue that as a career.
Yeah, definitely. And seeing how, you know, a skill in the arts could lead, like you were sort of talking about, those young people that have then taken that skill and turned that into lots of different sort of career opportunities or pathways. So yeah, no, that's we are coming to the end, so I think we might have to sort of wrap up. But I suppose one of the things for to say to people listening is Andrea has worked in collaboration with our consortium brand at a big project about For the Love of Art. I don't know if there's anything you want to mention about that, Andrea, or...
Well, I think I've really enjoyed working with a consortium team. It's just been brilliant. Really enjoyed that so much. And hopefully for those teachers that are a little bit apprehensive about using some art techniques, we've tried to provide some fantastic resources there for you, step by step. Give it a go, because it's all for the love of art.
Brilliant. Yeah, and all those resources are available if you from the EduSummit main front page. You can find those in the knowledge hub. There is a complete hub dedicated to the love of art and celebrating that. So do go on there, as I say, download the resources, because they are a brilliant piece. So thank you very much, Andrea, for your time. I could sit here all day and just be talking about different.
I've loved it. I've loved it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for everybody that has logged on today, or anybody that watches this back on demand. So within 24 to 48 hours of this session, you will receive your attendee pack, which will contain a recording of the session, a certificate of attendance, and also a short survey. If we could ask you to fill out that survey, it really does help us to tailor and tweak things for the future and identify new learning areas that people are looking for. So do stick around for more sessions that we have got coming up this afternoon. There are sessions looking at Microsoft tools, Google technology, and we end the day with a keynote speech from Professor Adam Bodinson, CEO of Nason. And also don't forget, tomorrow starts off with a session from Dr. Andy Cope looking at Rising Stronger. So you will have full access to the Education Summit content for 3 months on demand, there to be able to access in your own time. And that leaves today, all it leaves is for me to say thank you very much, Andrea, and I'm sure we're looking forward to working with you on lots more things for the future. I'm just saying that because I know I would love to have another conversation with you about art. And thank you very much, everybody, for attending today.